Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Way of Life. I'm your host, Gus Holland. Today, I'm going to be covering ancient Egyptian weightlifting. Now, this type of weightlifting originated roughly 3500 BC. The Egyptians and the Mesopotamian people were training around the same time. Now, back in 3500 BC, everything was very basic. People would train primarily with sticks, sand, and stone. Now, sand was taken and put into various bags that were either made of cloth or leather if they had access to it. The bags were used to do all kinds of different lifts, very similar to today's sandbag training. They can be utilized for all different purposes. The primary way that they would use these sandbags to measure strength of an individual was through a very basic form of the clean and jerk motion, basically lifting a bag of sand of varying weight above one's head and holding for a few seconds before dropping it. Ego lifting's been around for a long time, so the heavier you could lift, the longer you could hold it, etc., would obviously give you bragging rights. Lifting was primarily done back then as not only a way to pass time, but to prepare yourself for just the everyday life. Life was harder back then. It was a lot more physically demanding. So it's best to stay in a physical form that helps you in life. So later down the line, around 2,000 years later, in 1500 BC, is when lifting became more complex, I guess. By that time, it had evolved into several other lifts, but they've had formulated different competitions. Weightlifting was a way of life, pardon the pun, but they used it to prepare for battle as well. Weightlifting, the javelin throw, running, swimming, and rowing were some of the top exercises that would test a man's overall capacity as a man, as a soldier. Besides these exercises, archery was one of the most favored activities, especially among the rich. Archery was not only one of the best ways to show someone's hand-eye coordination, but it also was a great representation of someone's back and upper body strength. Archery was performed for the military on the back of chariots. These chariots were modified so that they would be lighter and faster. An archer would have to be able to make precision shots, sometimes at the speed of 30 to 35 miles an hour, which is extremely difficult. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole bunch of information on the ancient Egyptian weightlifting practices besides a few textbooks, and that information is actually rendered from hieroglyphics and murals from the time period, most of which depict each sport that I've already previously listed, and then their importance within the society primarily is sourced from how often they are depicted in the hieroglyphics and murals, as well as their implied importance, basically what we can infer the benefit to their society would be. Like I said, most of this was done for military reasons. That's why there's such an importance on hand-eye coordination exercises, as well as gymnastics for balance and in running for endurance. Besides that, it's the rowing and javelin. Javelin was primarily used for hunting. They did incorporate spear throwing in the military at some point, But yeah, that's really about it. As far as the Egyptians go, the Mesopotamian culture, all of the information on them has been sourced from murals, and those murals are over exaggerated, basically as a warning or a false propaganda to accentuate their culture's strength and fearsomeness. So basically, as excuse me, used to deter enemies from attacking or invading or messing with anything that they had going on, really. Now, when I first started my research into the Egyptian weightlifting, I had always depicted it in my mind that they would do the sandbag lifts with two hands, but actually, a lot of the time, at least what based on what was depicted in a mural from 3500 BC in the tomb of Beni Hassan, most of the time it seems that the sandbags were actually of a medium to lighter weight and were used for single-handed lifts, kind of combining strength and balance, because you're almost like swinging it up like a kettlebell and then holding it up. Another event of great importance that the Egyptians are credited for founding is the marathon. So marathons were held with the utmost importance in ancient Egypt, especially during times of celebration and when a king was to take power. So one of these celebration rituals would actually be a marathon that was held for all of the citizens to watch, and it would include the king running around the temples to show how strong he was and to portray his mental fortitude. Because these marathons, it is a test of endurance, but and physical ability. But once they go past a certain distance, your mental capabilities are, I would say, of higher importance than even your physical. Basically, your ability to push through when times are tough or there's a moment of adversity. So according to historic records, that particular pharaoh that was about to assume power, together with the people that were born on the same day as him, would participate in hectic marathons. No one was allowed to have a meal until they had covered 180 stages of that race. Now, in regards to modern day sports in Egypt, they still have a pretty good culture as far as wrestling, weightlifting, boxing, and swimming goes, as well as different ball-related games, basketball, squash. The weightlifters are actually, out of all those categories, who have won most of Egypt's Olympic medals. So the Egyptian Olympic Committee was founded in 1910, and the first time that an Egyptian participated in the Olympics was the Summer Games of 1912. From there, they've consistently competed in Olympic sports as far as modern time goes. Also, Egyptian weightlifters participated in the World Championship held in Thailand, which qualified 15 Egyptian weightlifters to represent their country in the 2008 Beijing Olympics. In regards to bodybuilding, in 2006, Egypt hosted and won the 7th Open African Bodybuilding Championship and the 4th Junior Bodybuilding Championship, after the national team had grabbed 6 golds and 6 silvers. Well, that about wraps it up on this episode of Way of Life. I want to thank you once again for listening and supporting the podcast. If you'd like to call in and leave a voicemail for the show, whether it's just saying hey or suggesting a topic for us to cover, you can call the hotline at 346-200-7168. There's just a voicemail line on a Google phone number. You can just leave a voicemail. If you prefer for it to be anonymous, just say so. and that will not be a problem. Other than that, all of the social media links will be in the description below. And I want to say thank you again, and we'll have another episode next week. All right. Love y'all. Bye.